Think about the last time you walked into a bustling coffee shop.
Right, the line's out the door.
Exactly. The espresso machine is hissing, the indie folk music is playing like slightly too loud, and the line is just moving fast.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And for most of us, stepping up to that counter is entirely thoughtless. I mean, it is just muscle memory.
Oh, completely.
You say a few magic words, you tap a piece of plastic, and caffeine suddenly appears. It's this, perfectly choreographed social dance.
It really is. And we know the steps so incredibly well that we completely ignore how complex the choreography actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, the unwritten social contract of the coffee line involves spatial awareness, timing, tone of voice, and this is key, a highly specific transactional vocabulary.
But imagine you don't know the steps.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Right. Imagine being dropped into that exact same fast-moving line. But the entire menu, the barista, the social expectations, they are all in a language you barely speak.
It changes everything.
Suddenly, that everyday interaction isn't just a coffee order. It is a high-stakes performance. And that is why today we are looking at something incredibly revealing. We're doing a deep dive into a single specific document.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating one.
It's a 6 to 7 minute educational script designed to teach absolute beginners how to survive that exact coffee shop scenario.
Right.
It's an English lesson from a show called English Bridge, and we're looking specifically at episode 3, which is titled At the Coffee Shop.
So to understand what we're actually looking at here, you have to realize this script is designed for A2 elementary English learners.
So absolute basics.
Oh, yeah, essentially. The creators are these two hosts named Sara and Tom, and they're guiding the listener through foundational vocabulary.
Right.
We are talking about words like large, small, medium,
Yeah.
to go, for here.
The survival word.
Exactly. They walk through a specific role play, and they end with these targeted practice tips. But the text itself, it reads less like a traditional syllabus and more like a psychological survival manual.
Survival manual. I love that because dissecting how this foundational knowledge is structured and packaged, it really reveals so much about human communication.
It really does.
Teaching a language is clearly not just about handing over a dictionary. It involves managing a tremendous amount of human anxiety.
Oh, for sure. The anxiety is the biggest hurdle.
Right. And before Sarah and Tom even get to the vocabulary, they spend a significant amount of the script deliberately constructing the psychological safety net.
Yeah, they do.
The architecture of this safe space is built right into the introduction and the outro. I mean, the phrasing they use is intensely community-focused.
It's very warm.
Very warm. Sarah literally says, "Welcome to the family," and Tom tells the listener, "We are so happy you are here with us today."
And the underlying mechanism here is so crucial because for an adult elementary learner, engaging with a new language is, well, it's inherently humiliating.
Humiliating. How so?
Well, think about it. You might have a mortgage, a career, a complex inner life, but suddenly you are reduced to pointing at a pastry and grunting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you put it like that.
Right. Your brain is operating in a state of extreme vulnerability. And that triggers what linguists call an affective filter.
An effective filter.
Exactly. It is essentially this mental wall that goes up when you are stressed, and it actively prevents your brain from absorbing new information.
So if you're stressed, you literally can't learn.
You literally can't. So by using this enthusiastic, really warm framing, Sara and Tom are essentially performing psychological triage.
They're calming the patient down.
Yes. They prioritize encouragement over immediate instruction, specifically to lower that affective filter.
And the praise is just relentless. I mean, in the outro, Sarah tells the listener, "You are doing so well every episode. Your English is getting better and better."
It feels incredibly supportive.
It does. But okay, let's unpack this for a second because I have to push back a little.
Okay, go for it.
Consider the other kind of language happening in the margins of this script.
The YouTube stuff.
Exactly. Amidst all the welcome to the family talk, there are constant requests to hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon, and leave us a comment below.
Right, the standard calls to action.
Right. So doesn't the commercial reality of being a digital creator kind of break the very safe space they are trying to build?
I mean,
Well, asking someone to click a bell icon feels deeply transactional. Like, isn't there a risk that these constant calls to action distract from the actual 6-minute language lesson?
it's a valid question. You might assume the commercial algorithm ruins the intimacy, right?
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
But the digital ecosystem actually relies on it to function. The algorithm is the exact thing making the safe space possible in the first place.
Okay, but what about the learner's focus?
Well, you're right that the cognitive load of a learner is definitely being taxed by having to process YouTube-specific jargon. But those interactions are cleverly framed as community participation.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so when Sarah says, leave a comment so we know your favorite phrase,
Yeah.
she is masking an algorithmic call to action as a language exercise.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. The parasocial relationship, that feeling that Sarah and Tom are your actual friends, is strengthened, not weakened, by the listener feeling like they're actively contributing to the channel's survival.
Okay, so the digital toll is paid, the effective filter is lowered, and the listener is finally ready to learn.
Exactly.
So what is the actual linguistic cargo being delivered once that safe space is built?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Because they completely bypass complex grammar, right? They focus entirely on the mechanics of politeness.
Yes. The lesson focuses heavily on two very specific phrases, can I have and I would like.
Just those two.
Just those two. They skip explaining why we say would like instead of will like or do like.
Right, there's no grammar lesson there.
None. They do not explain the syntactic rules of modal verbs at all. They just hand the listener the finished tools.
Like giving them a pre-built house instead of the lumber.
Exactly. And Tom explicitly emphasizes the cultural weight of this, making a point to say that saying please and thank you is, quote, very important in English.
Yeah, he specifically mentions using these phrases in places like London, New York, or Sydney.
Right. It's highly practical survival skills.
But it's almost like giving someone the cheat codes to a video game before teaching them how the controller actually
It's
works.
the cheat codes. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
The focus is entirely on utility. But I have to ask, does teaching I would like as a fixed block of text at the A2 level actually handicap the learner's future fluency?
Handicaps them how?
Well, if they just memorize the soundbite, they might think I would like is just one long, unbreakable word. Are we preventing them from understanding the underlying grammar of the word would?
So that phenomenon is actually known as chunking.
Chunking.
Yeah, chunking. It's learning a phrase as a single block of vocabulary rather than a combination of individual words. And the danger you're talking about is real.
So they might get stuck.
They might. The learner might not realize would and like can be separated and used elsewhere to construct new meanings.
Right.
But think about the primary goal of a beginner in a foreign city. The goal isn't linguistic mastery, you know. It is social friction reduction.
Social friction reduction.
Exactly.
Hmm.
If you are grammatically incorrect but incredibly polite, native speakers will bend over backward to help you.
Oh, that is so true.
Right. But if you have perfect grammar but come across as rude, the interaction just shuts down.
Nobody wants to help a rude person no matter how good their verbs are.
Exactly. The immediate payoff of successfully completing a polite social transaction builds the confidence required to stick with the language long enough to actually learn that underlying grammar later.
So the cheat code keeps them playing the game.
Perfectly said.
And because these phrases are taught as highly functional chunked tools, the script immediately forces the listener to see them deployed in a practical simulation.
The role play.
The role play scenario. It's between Tom playing the customer and Sarah playing the barista, and it is where the theory actually hits the road.
Yeah, that dialogue acts as a controlled sandbox.
A sandbox.
Yeah, a sandbox is a space where the edges are clearly defined, which allows for experimentation without any real-world consequences.
And the scenario they build in this sandbox is highly specific. I mean, Tom orders a large hot coffee with milk.
Right.
He also orders a sandwich, and they navigate a choice. Sarah offers chicken or tuna, and Tom chooses the chicken sandwich.
Classic coffee shop dilemma.
Exactly. And then they navigate dining options with Sarah asking for here or to go. Tom says for here, and it culminates in a final price of $8.
Which is pretty cheap for a coffee and a sandwich these days.
Seriously. But notice the variables they introduce. Hot or cold, milk or no milk, chicken or tuna.
Right. These are high-frequency, high-utility choices.
Exact.
The role play demonstrates how the basic can I have formula adapts to slight predictable friction in the real world.
Predictable being the key word there.
Yes, it teaches the learner that a conversation isn't an infinite void of terrifying vocabulary. It is just a series of small, manageable choices.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting to me. The script creates this perfectly frictionless, highly controlled $8 transaction.
Right.
But if you memorize the script perfectly, and then you walk into a real coffee shop, The actual barista is almost guaranteed to go off script.
Oh, invariably.
Right. They might ask, do you have our loyalty rewards app? Or are you paying with cash or card? Or even just, can I get a name for the order?
None of which are in the lesson.
Exactly. None of those questions are covered here.
Hmm.
So doesn't this highly controlled sandbox leave the learner completely stranded when reality inevitably breaks the script?
It's a great point. But the sandbox doesn't give you a map of the whole city.
Hmm.
It just teaches you how to read the street signs.
Okay, I like that analogy.
The concept at play here is cognitive bandwidth. When you are operating in a second language, your brain has a finite amount of processing power available at any given second. If you have to spend, say, 90% of your brain power just trying to remember the word for coffee and how to conjugate the verb to want, you have absolutely zero bandwidth left to process anything the barista says.
You are maxed out just trying to survive your own sentence.
Precisely. But if the core transaction, I would like a large hot coffee, is chunked and automated through that sandbox roleplay, it only takes up 10% of your cognitive bandwidth.
Oh, I see.
You now have 90% of your brain power left over.
So when the barista inevitably asks about a loyalty app,
You actually have the mental space to realize you don't understand, process the confusion, and calmly point gesture or just say, I'm sorry, no.
that makes so much sense.
The sandbox doesn't prevent the chaos of actual human interaction. It simply ensures you aren't overwhelmed by it.
And the creators of English Bridge clearly anticipate that exact real-world anxiety. The fear of the unexpected is woven right into the closing strategy found in the outro.
Yeah, the practice tip.
The practice tip. It might be the most psychologically astute moment in the entire document.
It really explicitly bridges the terrifying gap between knowing a word conceptually and vocalizing it physically to a stranger.
Because the listener is instructed that the next time they order food or a drink anywhere, they should practice saying the order in English first in their head and only then say it out loud.
Right.
And earlier in the outro, they are also encouraged to practice in front of a mirror or with a friend.
Which is a huge shift. Up until this point, the listener has just been passively absorbing Sara and Tom's voices.
Right, they're just listening.
Yeah, but this tip transitions the lesson into active mental modeling.
Active mental modeling.
Acknowledging the visceral fear of speaking is vital. I mean, moving your mouth to form unfamiliar sounds feels incredibly unnatural.
It really does.
So by providing the learner with a private internal rehearsal space, the space inside their own mind,
Yeah.
or alone in front of a mirror, the script creates a buffer zone.
A safe place to fail.
Exactly. It allows the learner to experience the mechanics of the sentence without the social risk of a native speaker staring at them impatiently.
This reminds me of an athlete visualizing a play before stepping onto the field, like a basketball player picturing the free throw, feeling the weight of the ball in their mind before they ever take the shot.
That's a great comparison.
But I have to wonder if you over-rehearse the exact order in your head,
Yeah.
like if you are standing in line silently looping, I would like a large hot coffee with milk, I would like a large hot coffee with milk, doesn't that create a new problem?
What kind of problem?
Well, it seems like it would make it harder to react naturally. If you are too busy queuing up your mental script, aren't you going to struggle to listen actively when the real barista actually speaks to you?
Ah, yes. That is the tightrope walk of language acquisition, and it often leads to what we call script deafness.
Script deafness.
Yeah. You are so intensely focused on delivering your rehearsed lines perfectly that you completely tune out the other actor on stage.
Oh, wow.
You might confidently march up to the counter and flawlessly deliver, I would like a large hot coffee, right as the barista is pointing to a sign and telling you the espresso machine is broken.
And you just completely miss it.
You didn't hear them at all because you were too busy listening to your own internal rehearsal.
So the mental modeling actually prevents active listening.
It does, temporarily. But for an A2 elementary learner, you have to consider the alternative.
Which is?
Well, the alternative to mental rehearsal isn't natural flowing conversation. The alternative is usually complete paralysis.
Ah, right. The freezing up.
Exactly. The internal rehearsal serves a biological function. It lowers the heart rate just enough so that the words can physically exit the mouth.
Wow.
Active listening, adapting to the broken espresso machine, catching the nuance of the barista's tone. Those are luxuries of the intermediate learner.
The beginner just needs to survive the transaction.
Exactly. The beginner just needs to get the words out. The script deafness is a necessary phase you just have to pass through to get to actual communication.
That is fascinating. Looking at the entire structure of this 6 to 7 minute educational tool, the density of what is happening beneath the surface is just staggering.
It's so layered.
We have a script that uses intense familial encouragement to bypass the brain's effective filter and lower defensive walls.
Right.
We have a curriculum that prioritizes the functional politeness of "I would like" over the structural reality of complex grammar, utilizing chunking to give the learner a cheat code for social survival.
And we see the application of that highly controlled $8 sandbox, carefully designed to automate the core transaction and free up cognitive bandwidth for the inevitable real-world chaos.
Yeah. And finally, we see the reliance on private mental rehearsal to physically transition the learner from passive listening to active vocal participation in a new language.
So really, the next time you casually order a coffee, the next time you effortlessly navigate that line, make those micro decisions about sizes and milk, and tap your card to pay without a second thought.
Yeah.
Take a moment to appreciate the incredibly complex social scripts you are executing. Those exact sequences of words, the spatial awareness, the tone of politeness, that is exactly what someone else right now is standing in front of a mirror trying desperately to memorize.
It reframes a mundane interaction into a profound display of cultural fluency. We really do take for granted the sheer amount of data we process just to acquire a beverage.
It completely reframes it.
But, there's one final piece of this source material that warrants a closer look, something for you to mull over after we wrap up here.
What's that?
Well, it sits quietly at the very foundation of the English bridge lesson. The entire 6 minutes of education, the psychological safety net, the mental rehearsal, it is all built entirely around a commercial
Oh,
transaction.
no, right. Buying the coffee.
Exactly. The pinnacle achievement of this lesson, the ultimate goal the learner is striving toward, is successfully buying a hot coffee, choosing a chicken sandwich over a tuna sandwich, and asking, "How much is it?" so they can hand over $8.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the role play.
So, if the very first steps we take when crossing the linguistic bridge into a new culture are so deeply inherently rooted in commerce, what does that say about why we learn languages in the first place?
That's a heavy question.
We often talk about language as a tool for empathy, right?
Yeah.
A way to understand different worldviews and connect with our fellow human beings on a deeper level.
A bridge between cultures.
Exactly. But the reality of this A2 script suggests something much more pragmatic. Is our primary goal as human beings really to connect with one another? Or is it just to make absolutely sure we can successfully buy a chicken sandwich when we land in Sydney? It's
Wow.
something to think about. The next time you step up to that hissing espresso machine and you rely on your muscle memory to place your order, ask yourself what you are really exchanging across that counter.